Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the Race Hour podcast, brought to you in a more media format because we're on video here today, which is very exciting, all ahead of the Summer Festival at Galway 2022. It's myself, Dean Ryan, in the towers of bookmakers.com, which I am actually in. A lot of people don't believe that I ever am. Dermot Nolan is here.
Hello, Dino. How are you?
Very well, Dermo. Looking forward to a bit of Galway. We haven't spoken for a few months, given our normal sabbatical on the Race Hour, of course, where we try to avoid everything to do with flat racing, unless it's at Galway.
Unless it's a Galway, yeah, we will dip our toe into Galway. We used to do Royal Ascot as well, but even that's gone at the kind of
and the bottom's fallen out.
Wayside now.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dino, look, absolutely thrilled to be back, Dino.
Great, and we've also got new friends, of course, with the Tote being on board for this one-off special ahead of the Galway race meeting. So thank you very much to them. Do get involved with the Bit.ly link, which you will see on this screen, /Galway 2022. And of course, their Bet5 Get 20 offer on bookmakers.co.uk. Now, two very special guests for this Galway racing special. First one, it's no introduction really, and it's someone we've tried to get onto the Race Hour many times, and maybe the fleeting appearance here and there. It's Tom Lee, Channel 4, RTE, Betfred TV, Man United TV. Tom, you're a bit of an expert on everything, but Galway must be close to your heart.
Oh, that's the truth. That is absolutely the truth. And do you know what? After what's felt like a lifetime, an eternity, to be back there is something just very special. So just itching for Monday, really, because I think every year it's not so much about the race course, it's about the people, because honest to God, I think when you think of all the different individuals and little groups and clusters of things that are going on, not just at the track, but what's going on off the track that week, and all the excitement and all the razzmatazz and the colour and just the sheer joy it brings to people and the money it brings into the town and the city and the surrounds. You see at the minute, by the time we get to Galway on Monday, we will know whether or not Galway have won the football. That would only put even more of a spring in people's step, but win or lose, it's going to be an amazing 7 days. So I think when you see Galway Racecourse undressed without the tents and the marquees and the flags, it's like a beautiful woman with no makeup on. But for those 7 days, she is a supermodel. She's literally a Hollywood A-lister, the most gorgeous girl you've ever seen. So honestly, bring it on. Very close to my heart. Been every year since 2007, and hopefully don't intend to stop anytime soon. Great week coming up.
Yeah, can't wait. It's some week of racing and an atmosphere that I think a lot of other festivals would like to create, but just can't. There is something magical about Galway. If they do bring the Sam Maguire there, Dermot Nolan would be very upset, but it's a different podcast, so we won't.
I'm just very impressed that you actually know what Sam Maguire is, to be fair to you. So.
I just heard on the radio this morning, Dermot. I appreciate the truth bomb there. That's very fair indeed. The other man that we've got on this one-off special, of course, brought to you with the Tote for the Galway Races, is Conor O'Hare. Now, Conor O'Hare has been on the podcast a few times before. This is the man who gets the whispers from everywhere across Ireland. So, and also, obviously, working with RTE as you do, Conor, you're the man putting together all those fantastic montages that we get to watch on RTE, which they do better than anywhere else.
Oh, we're told anyway, Dean. But yeah, it's brilliant to be back. It was a weird couple of years down there. I was one of the lucky few to be down there the last couple of years. Nobody there. 2020, then there was small crowds last year, but just wasn't the same. And yeah, building up to it now, looking through old archive and old tapes and seeing all the colour, it's bringing it right home. It's only a few days to go now, and Jesus, I can't wait to get down there. Busy week's work, but the party will be good too, and very much looking forward to it. Can't wait.
Yeah, and do try and get the likes of Dermot, myself, Dave Weldon, all those into those montages from the crowds if you can do it. If you can find those clips, sneak them into the production, please.
All the recognisable faces for sure. Always.
Yeah, I love the one of me behind JP McManus with the dictaphone, and you just go, who's that? Aidan O'Brien? Is it Roger Varian? Who's that guy? It's not. Yeah, no, it was me, unfortunately. When I actually hit the wet for a living. Good to have you with us, Conor. I must say as well, there's a special guest on here, and Dermot Nolan caught up with him during the week, and that is the Totes Racing Ambassador, Danny Mullins. You'll be hearing from him in the midsection of this one-off special. Do look out for it. Talk, of course, all about the plate and the hurdle, and they are the subject of our first port of call for this podcast. We're going to kick off with the Galway Plate, which goes to post on Wednesday. Dermot, I'm going to come to you first on the plate. Always a fantastic race, of course, to get stuck into. I didn't think that when we were waiting for Bob Ollinger against Gallopin, Deschamps, of course, at Cheltenham. Those other two pesky runners, Albara and Boostleton, would be right at the front of the mix for a Galway Plate. But here they are. Is that...
Here they are. And to be fair, Dean, I did say halfway through last season that I thought Boostleton would be a Galway Plate runner. So the market, I think I got half of that right. Boostleton's been one of these funny horses. He's been handicapped in plain sight. That's the way that they've done it all season. He's running in big races from the kind of toward just after Christmas onwards. Really, he's been taking in some very, very decent affairs. The run at Cheltenham was genius from connections. They got very decent prize money for finishing second in a race where they were never really involved in. And then at Punchestown, that was a huge effort behind it. Albara, he just couldn't quite get the horse back, but Jack Foley took £5 off and he gave him £3 anyway. So that was £8 that he gave him that day. The way that the weights have been kind of coalesced now means that it's much kinder on Boostleton. £2 higher than that run as well. Won last time on the flat to get himself ready for this. He's ran very well at Galway last season when just finding 2 miles a bit too sharp for him. I think Boostleton has every single thing in his favour here. I've been talking about this horse for a long time for this race, and definitely not changing now. The ground's going to suit him as well. It's good to yielding now at the moment. Everything will suit him, and he has the speed. He jumps well enough. JJ Slevin is a fantastic pilot, and Dean, I really, really like Boostleton for this.
Yeah, no shocks there, I don't think, for anyone who's been listening to the race hour over the winter months, that all we did was just keep pegging Boostleton for a Galway Plate. The day is coming, the market has woken up as well. It's already come into kind of like second favourite around that price, or around 10 to 1. I think it's probably the best out there at the moment for Boostleton. And it's a very interesting runner. Tom, I'll come to you. This is a race where I don't think you want a lot of weight on your back. Trends will tell you that under 11 stone, if you're kind of had to ignore maybe last year, it was 11 stone 5, the winner carried. But under 11 stone is what you want. Horses like Fire Attack and Boostleton are fitting that at the top end of the market. The rest have got plenty to carry.
No crowds in the Galway races for 3 years, but Dean Ryan's collection of anoraks grows ever stronger. You can tell coming out with that kind of gear at the front of the podcast. Good stuff, Dino. You're right, because Easy Games is going to be top weight if he runs of 160, for heaven's sake. So that'll be 11 stone 12. Everything else filters down from there. I think I've got 3 points to make, really. First would be, Gabby Nacco for Gavin Cromwell, who's starting to target this meeting. Don't forget, he was placed in a beginner's chase at this track. What beat him? Noble Yates. What's he done since, I wonder? And of course, Gabby Nacco went on to be second in an Arkle, so he's got more than a touch of class. Speaking of touch of class, true human beings stay the course. They don't go missing when things go a bit awry. And one of the great characters of the game, somebody who is just redoubtable. And even if he goes quiet for a year or two, he comes back for more. That's the Shark, John Hanlon, who maybe he hasn't got the numbers, maybe he hasn't got the quality, but he has got Hewick. And this is a horse who's carried him to good places because he's won a Durham National. He's won a Whitbread or a Bet365 or whatever you call it nowadays in Sandown Park. And Shark, don't forget, on Wednesday night just gone, had a lovely winner in Limerick with Ballinabula Steel. So maybe that's a team who are hitting a bit of form at the right time. And I'd love to see Hewick. The heart says Hewick, because will he be taken off his feet in a strong run 2 mile 5? Probably. But I'd love to see it. It'd just be great for the Shark to go and win it after he so nearly won the hurdle a couple of years ago. But I think, exactly as you said, I think if you want to bet with the head, you want to be looking at the younger, unexposed, upcoming, rising stars, the talents, those who've still got their best days ahead of them, not the washed up old crocs or the ones with 1 million miles on the clock. And to me, well, I'd be working through these thinking, hang on a second, where's the rising star? I remember Fanda Blues beating Gin on Lime at this meeting 12 months ago in a grade 3. And if you think in between times, he's done plenty to recommend himself. He's still a comparatively young horse, lightweight, and it really intrigued me. I heard Diarmuid talking immediately about Boostleton, about Elborough. That run Punchestown, look what was fourth. And if you watch the tape again, poor old Fanda Blues nearly got completely skittled at the first fence. So his whole race was put on hold. And yet he ran an absolute smasher to be fourth that day. And he's improving all the time. 3 months gap between races. I think this would be absolutely spot on. So I'm always looking for something at a price each way with a lightweight, exactly as you said, Dean. I respect Diarmuid's point, but building on that, I think slightly less obvious, but maybe in the same sort of line of thought, if you will, is Van der Blues.
Yep, fascinating pick that, actually. Do you know what's interesting about that one as well is that another one of my, you can call it anorak stacks, but, quick spin through Wikipedia, give you some of this stuff. He's 7 years old. Busselton's a bit young, isn't he, to go and do this? And not too many come and do this at the age of just 5, albeit looks an obvious play. Any retort?
Yeah, I think the age is based on how many runs per season for me. I think Busselton's had, like 600 runs by this point already. Been everywhere. His experience at Galway, ran through the summer last year. He's won on all types of ground. I think the age experience matters, definitely the age, but I think age correlates to experience. And I think Busselton ticks that back really.
All right, well, let's go to local track experience. Conor O'Hare, you've been there many times. You've probably found the run of this more times than I've watched the race, Conor, even at your tender age, given my old age syndrome, unfortunately. Make some sense of the race for me, please.
I think a lot of it's been covered, but I'm a big Busselton fan, similar to Dermot. I just think he's a horse. He's been around the track. Lots of experience for a young horse, as we were saying. I think Joseph, he knows obviously how to win this race. He's won it in the past. Doesn't have many national hunt horses still, but any of the ones that he kind of has still kept in training, they're there for a reason. I think over the next few years, that's going to kind of wean itself out. I think it'll become a completely flat operation, but the jump horses he still has are all they're all well capable of running well in these big races. I think Busselton is definitely a very interesting one, and I had been kind of looking at him for a long time for this race as well. El Barra, horse that burst, that we know definitely burst. He's burst twice officially anyway. He's a horse that he's plenty of ability, but I'm always keen to kind of stay away from a regular burst or that kind of thing. So I'd have Busselton to beat El Barra. A horse at a big price. Like Donna, kind of an older experienced horse, Castle Grace Paddy. You might laugh at me here, but he had a good run back in the flat there only a few weeks ago. Patrick Mullins rode him. He runs well in his place a lot of times. I think he's in around a 33 or 40 to 1 shot. I just think if the ground come up with a little bit of a dig in it, which I think it might, by the middle of the week, I think he might outrun his odds at a big price. Pat Fahey, good trainer, and yeah, he runs well in a lot of graded races. He's gone into this handicap off kind of a workable enough mark, and we know he's fitting well from a good run on the flat only a couple of weeks ago, so he might be one at a bigger price, but I think of the shorter ones, Busselton will be for me as well. Okay,
a couple of double figure shouts there with Castle Grace Paddy around 16 to 1 mark. I think it's around 20 to 1 for Van der Blues. Should we talk about Joseph's other runner though, Conor? What about Fire Attack? I mean, the profile, if it's the right age, got a decent weight on his back with 10 stone 10 off a mark of 144. They warmed up with a nice win at Punchestown. Joey will probably come in at least 1 or 2 handed.
Yeah, he'll come with as many hands as he can for sure. With these valuable handicaps. Fire Attack, another similar profile to Busselton, is kind of still relatively unexposed, but over fences anyway, had plenty of runs on the over hurdles, but definitely another one. It's another one near the head of the market. I wouldn't be surprised if they got one of the good claimers maybe to claim a few pounds off Fire Attack. And yeah, another one with a big live chance. Joseph's going to have plenty of runners, to say, between flat and jumps, and he'll be throwing as many darts at these big races as he can.
I fancy him for a 1-2 here. I think of the runners with the fit the profile, age, weight, and the form to put up a big show in here. I'd be keen on Fire Attack and Busselton getting involved. I wouldn't go too far past a Joey 1-2, but a couple of bigger price ones.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. That's Dermot's trick. Like Dermot does this at Galway all the time.
Yeah, I do it at every race course, Dean, but it doesn't mean I'm winning much often, really, does it?
I know it's a bet you like, and it works well with Tote on board with us. Okay, I'm going to get you to summarise each of you, just to give me your one play for the race and maybe something at a bigger price. Conor, I came to you last, so I'm going to go back to Tom. Tom, Van der Blue is the main pick.
Yeah, Van der Blue's a bit the main pick, Dean. Remember this horse beating Gin on Lime, who's gone on to do extremely well in a grade 3 novice at this track 12 months ago. Nice lightweight, and I think you can upgrade that last run at Punchestown, where it's obvious to look at El Barra and Busselton from that, but keeping them just in sight and certainly improving all the time. Van der Blues, who was a few lengths back that day, but I think arguably you can give him more credit than perhaps the form book does on that occasion. So Van der Blues each way, it's something currently, if you want to back him, I think he's something in the region you said of, what is he, 16, 18, 20 to 1.
Yep.
With the bookies, you know yourself, next week they're going to be dishing out extra places left, right and centre. So hopefully he can sneak into the frame, or even better, go and win the thing.
Love that. Love that. Van der Blues for Tom Lee. Dermo, we all know, but you may as well give us one line. Busselton's going to win the plate.
And he might be the obvious pick, Tom, but he's the winner as well. So it's all good.
That's what I like to hear. And Conor, if you rely on Castle Grace Paddy here now, 11-year-olds to do a Phoenix from the Flames, I'll be impressed.
Oh no, I'll be in the Busselton camp, but Castle Grace Paddy had a big price to maybe run into the places. And as Tom says, with the extra places during the week, if you're getting each race maybe 6 places at a big price, I think might run into the money. But Busselton, the most likely winner, I think.
Love that. I'm going to sit on the fence and go for a Joey 1-2. I hope it's Busselton, because that'll fit Conor and Dermo's wagers. But I do fancy Fire Attack will also run a very big race. Let's move on to the Galway Hurdle. Of course, goes to post on the Thursday. I was very keen on kind of a repeat the trick process here, with Willie Mullins running a classy type like Saint-Ouen in the contest, but that's not going to go. Gordon Elliott was waxing lyrical during the week about his couple of runners. I think Felix Deji went a favourite for this in the past, but came down very early. That will probably line up again. But Party Central is a bit of a flop behind Love Envoy at Cheltenham, but travelled supremely well that day. Has come out and won since at Punchestown, of course. That's Party Central. That'll be a very fancied runner. We've got another mare in there for hire for Willie Mullins. We've got HMS Seahorse, who's a dark horse for sure. Only 4 years old. That'll be a massive feat to go and win a Galway Hurdle. That could go for Paul Nolan. And Adamantly Chosen, who I think, well, I can speak for them. They're on the panel. Conor and Dermot will tell you that we're all very keen that this would go and dot up in the final race on the final day at the Cheltenham Festival. It didn't quite come together, didn't quite see it through, but that could go a favourite for a Galway Hurdle. Conor, are you going back into the Adamantly Chosen ranks here?
I think I'm going to be in the Gordon Elliott camp in this one, Dean. Adamantly Chosen could be very well handicapped and had a good run since that kind of flop at Cheltenham, ran well in Punchestown. But I'd be in the Party Central team for this one. I think the race will just be run to suit her. I think she's such a keen traveller. They'll go fast. She has form over a little bit further. You need that form over the little bit further than 2 miles to get up that hill. And in the Galway Hurdle, I think Davy Russell will be on board more than likely. Ride a nice, cool, patient race. Hopefully get a bit of luck. I think she's well handicapped 142. Still running off 142. There was some blot when she won a Leopardstown off 121, but she's an improver and she's unexposed. I think she's the one that I'd be siding with. I think there's been a few quid for her over the last few days. The 14 to 1 that was available originally has been snapped up, I think. So that'll be my main play in the race, to be Party Central. I think it'll just be run to suit her, and she could arrive there with a late challenge after the last, hopefully.
I think I'm with you, Conor. I do. And Gordon, talking during the week, seemed to all but confirm, without putting his name on the race card, that Jack Kennedy will ride Party Central. I think it's got the right profile for this, and I think it might just give him the Galway Hurdle winner that's been elusive to him so far, Tom Lee. Gordon Elliott hasn't had one. He's gone close, though.
He has, and surely it's only a matter of time. But you get these odd quirks. We'll go on, I'm sure, and talk about Aidan McGuinness in Tuesday's big race. Patrick Mullins, of course, in this race, having won 3 of the last 4. What's he going to ride? Party Central, well named for Galway, the 7 days. Adamantly Chosen. I thought it was interesting that the favourite, as you and I are talking now, is a Mullins trained 5-year-old. But actually, I'm just going to throw 2 names into the mix, above and beyond Party Central, or indeed Adamantly Chosen. And that's Adamantly Chosen's stablemate, Tax for Max, who's from the master trainer, still only a 5-year-old, second at this meeting 12 months ago in a novice hurdle to Far Out, who also might run in this race. No mileage, only 14 runs so far. Why aren't more people talking about Tax for Max, who I think, unlike Adamantly Chosen, is double those odds, and yet arguably you get very nearly as much for your cash maybe you could say more. The other one, and again, youth over experience, but this is youth and experience. If I presented to you a 6-year-old who'd been there and done that and got the T-shirt and run not only at Galway, but in this race, picked up prize money, comes from a top stable, is £1 lower than when performing with distinction in this race, is fit from the flat, and since Galway last year has gone off favourite for a very, very prestigious handicap at Cheltenham, would you be interested at a double figure price? Because I can give you all those things with Noel Mead's Jesse Evans, who ran a barnstorming race to be placed 12 months ago, and yet seems to be ignored by the market. So you asked me for one, I'm giving you two, Tax for Max and Jesse Evans, the pair of them each way.
Both big prices as well. Jesse Evans is fascinating. I have to say, it had not appeared on my radar, but I will add it to the radar now. It's a big field, Dermot Nolan. We've been given a shout there for Party Central from Conor O'Hare, Tax for Max and Jesse Evans at big prices from Tom Lee. This is a race that I don't know if I need to remind Race Hour listeners, Dermot, because they're probably still dining out on it. But myself and you managed to land a double in 2017 with Tigris River and Balco de Flo. So if Boostleton wins the plate, the hurdle's now over to you.
Yeah, I agree with the same form lines as Tom, but I'm taking Far Out over Tax for Max. Far Out gave Tax for Max £7 last year at Galway and beat him, and he only has to give him £6 this year. Now, the difference is Tax for Max, I completely agree with Tom as far as Tax for Max goes. He travelled at Punchestown like he was the winner, and I don't know whether he got there too soon or what happened. There's just Far Out and Felix Deji went by him, but he did still travel into that race like he was the best horse in the race. So a Galway Hurdle should think, I'd just be worried about him at the finish. I think Far Out has everything going for him. If you watch the Galway with the county hurdle back, he's too far out the back and he flies through. At Punchestown, 2 out when he finishes second to Felix Deji, he's barely in your screen and he flies home. I think if a jockey can get him into a kinder position, I think Far Out has a massive handicap in him off a mark of 140. I think he's way too big a price. I can't have adamantly chosen for this. I can't have him at all. He's a horse who has looked devoid of pace. He's a horse that at Punchestown, he couldn't live with them. He flew home late, great run. In the Martin Pipe, he comes to the second last. He's travelling like an absolute dream. And then he just doesn't have the pace to pick himself up again. I think the Galway Hurdle is completely against that. I think they have to go on their heads basically the whole way around for him to come through. So I think he is the wrong favourite. I think Far Out has a huge chance. And there's one, Dean, at absolutely massive odds at 25-1 is Autumn Evening, another young horse for Jessica Harrington. This horse was third at Leopardstown last year, and like that third was a massive effort because Surprise Package came out and won a massive handicap since from behind. You look at the horses in behind, and arguably he could have won that day. Darrell Keefe maybe gave him just kind of got there a little bit too soon. And Autumn Evening went to Kelso afterwards. The ground went against him. He's been kind of running back in the flat again. Jessica Harrington stables in much better form now, but the form of that big field Leopardstown run will suit him perfectly. I think he'll suit Galway down to the absolute ground. He has the forms in the book there. He's probably too big a price because of a poor run at Kelso, but again, the ground, it was just horrific that day, really bad. So he's too big a price based off that piece of form. It's a brilliant piece of form, and the run beforehand as well when he won. He was the first horse at Jessica Harrington's yard to win for like 3 months or something. They were in terrible form. So Autumn Evening and Far Out, Dean, are my two for the old reverse forecast on the tote. But I'll be happy with Far Out will be my main one. But Autumn Evening, the more I think about it, the more I like him.
And he warmed up that Autumn Evening behind HMS Seahorse, didn't they, at the Curragh? Over the summer months there. And yeah, I remember that. I mean, there wasn't a notebook big enough to write the full words of Autumn Evening after that Leopardstown run. I think everyone put it in there in capital letters. Didn't quite happen for it yet. So you're probably right not to write that one off, especially at the prices you're likely to see for Autumn Evening in this race, of course, on Thursday. We must talk about HMS Seahorse. There's a 4-year-old from Paul Nolan's who went and decimated a field at the Curragh there on the flat, as running behind Vauban in a Grade 1. Tilting at windmills, maybe a little bit. You've got to do that sometimes, haven't you, Tom? But HMS Seahorse is a fascinating runner at only 4.
Well, I think what's refreshing, actually, there's a bit of fatigue when we talk only about Mullins and Elliott, and yet when you look down south and you see Paul Nolan readying an attack on Galway, he loves the mating, loves socialising as well. Great bloke, by the way. And as well, you see Dermot Mclaughlin with a great chance in the race, a man who's turning Fairyhouse into his own private schooling ground at Easter time. So I think actually, yeah, maybe it is tilting at windmills, but I think part of the joy and something that I think when I've experienced being on the best days of Irish racing, it's been when Mick Winters has turned up in Galway and won with Rebel Fitz. It's been when Peter Casey's come across to Leopardstown and won a Grade 1 on a biting cold February day. It's the day where Pat Kelly's turned up and won the Porterstown with Presenting Percy, like he's just joined in like a sprinter in the last 2 furlongs. And you see the way, you remember, for example, and I know we're going a bit off piece, but like when Percy won the Galmoy that year and they were 10 deep round the paddock, I mean, you never saw anything like it in any British racecourse. It will never be repeated. And yet, Paul Nolan, Mick Winters, Pat Kelly, Peter Casey, you can go on, because these characters, they are Irish racing. And that's with respect to the masters. So good luck to those guys. I won't be backing him, but I wish them the very best.
Yeah, I think he's a fascinating runner. But you make such a great point about Galway and the atmosphere that does create there. I think I was reading Puppy Power in the press just this week saying that a winner at Galway, especially in one of these races, the Hurdle or the Plate, the reception you got coming back in was akin to a Cheltenham Festival winner. That's all you need to hear, isn't it, from a man who's done both? Tom?
It is the truth. It's absolutely right, because as well, I remember back in the day when Paul Townend burst onto the scene in 2008, where did he really make a name for himself? Using his claim in Galway. And you see the young riders, you see that what it meant to them to come back and get the interview with Robert and Ted, to get the acclaim from the crowd and get the sheer buzz of riding a winner. And then heaven only knows, we all know that jockeys are highly disciplined, elite athletes and professionals, and they wouldn't dream of going into Galway of an evening and tasting the nightlife much. But listen, it's a great week. Good luck to all of them. And please God, everybody comes back fit and sound and well and healthy and having had a brilliant buzz from it, win or lose, because the actual occasion in Galway, yeah, listen, I want to collect. I want my pockets full of euro and I want to have a great week into the bargain. But it's just a great thing to be part of.
Absolutely. The setup at
bottom up.
The setup at that racecourse as well for the punter to get from the parade ring to the betting ring to the grandstand is literally a straight line of just busy, and everything accessible. It's very well done. And also every club and pub in Galway is the 21 Club. It's not all about one place. Okay, we've got to summarize the hurdle then. Conor, come to you first. I'm a Party Central man. You're a Party Central man. Do we need to look any deeper? I'm only concerned about HMSC Horse because I love everything about that animal and I think it might be able to do it as a 4-year-old, but I've got to stick with a little bit more experience, and Party Central do here.
Yeah, same for me, Dean. Party Central, and yeah, hopefully Party on Thursday when it comes there, tanking, jumping the last. I have a feeling it'll come there hard on it, and hopefully she can get up the hill and get the job done. But yeah, Party Central for me in the Galway Hurdle, I think is the one to be on.
I will be with you. I won't be joining you in Party Central in Galway, unfortunately, but I'll send you a WhatsApp, find out where I'll send some people your way. Dermot Nolan.
Far Road and an E-tray option on autumn evening as well, Dean.
Love that. Thank you very much. And Tom, final line on the Galway Hurdle goes to you.
Yeah, I'm going to have €1 each way on 2 of them. Jesse Evans and Tax for Max for the reasons given. They're big prices and the bookies will be throwing out like confetti these each way places extra. So that will do very nicely for me, please.
It will. That is a fact. That is a fact. Okay, that is the Galway Plate and the Galway Hurdle covered in some detail. Plenty of strong fancies there. Like I did say before, Dermo and myself did land the double before, but we agreed on those. We haven't agreed this time round. So yeah, stick with Dermo, ignore myself, I think would be my advice. Why don't we find out what Danny Mullins, of course, racing ambassador for the Tote, head of the Galway Festival, what he has to say about the Hurdle, the Plate, Galway itself, and a few other horses for the rest of the season. That's coming up now.
Hello and welcome back to the Race Hour podcast. This is Diarmuid Nolan. I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Tote ambassador and top national hunt jockey, Danny Mullins. How are you, Danny?
Good, yeah. No, it's great to be on.
Fantastic. Danny, the Galway Races obviously start next week. This is one of the premier meetings. And for you, Danny, it was a meeting that really announced you as a jockey because obviously you'd rode your first winner in May 2008. And then a few months afterwards, you'd rode your first treble on the Friday of Galway. It was a decent few weeks for you.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, I was very lucky when I started off. I was an apprentice to Jim Bulger. I got to ride some very good horses, and yeah, that treble in Galway, you know, I can remember it vividly. Like, it's getting to be too many years ago now, but you know, thankfully the years have been good to me, and I've been lucky enough to keep partnerships with plenty of good horses in Galway through the years as well.
Thank God, Danny. And what is it about the meeting? Obviously, Danny, you know, we've got Cheltenham and you've got Aintree, and you know all these meetings at Punchestown are absolutely brilliant. But there's something quite different about Galway. It's the social element and everything else. What is it about Galway that kind of jockeys particularly seem to enjoy most?
Yeah, I think for jockeys, I suppose the main thing is there's fantastic prize money. Like, you look at the hurdle, the Tote Galway Plate, you know, that the prize money is great. It's very competitive race, and you know, through the summer, you know, it used to be a case maybe years ago there were lower class horses, but you see more and more horses in the likes of the plate and the hurdle with heavy weights. They're becoming a real high class race now, and even, you know, through the rest of the week, there's such competitive race, and the atmosphere is fantastic in Galway. So many owners want to, you know, plan their whole summer around getting a horse good enough to go to Galway.
And that really is brilliant, yeah. And the whole meeting itself is fantastic. And obviously now, Danny, moving on to a race that we've kind of covered already on the podcast, but the Galway Plate, and this is a race where you went close in, obviously, on Cabaret Queen, the closest you've got so far. Obviously, we'll stick with the phrase "so far." You will win this race, please God. What sort of a horse, Danny, for our listeners at home? Obviously, as punters, we're kind of looking through a card, but what kind of a horse are you looking for to win a race like the Galway Plate?
Ideal, you know, those big handicaps, I suppose the first starting point is, you know, the likes of a novice, something that's unexposed. You need a horse with a lot of ability, but, you know, the horses who've been around a bit longer, they tend maybe to have a little bit too much weight. But that said, you know, Easy Game ran a big race last year. I'm sure he'll be in the mix again this year. I wonder now, Bustleton, if he gets in, I think he needs a couple to come out. He's probably one that's under the radar a little bit. You know, maybe he was lucky in Cheltenham to get a bit closer than he should have, but that form maybe doesn't read quite as literally as it looks. But the likes of that, you know, a horse that's still maybe a little bit under the radar. And, you know, looking through the betting, plenty of the ones near the head are the novices, and they're the ones that people are keeping on their side.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, Danny, I'm actually thrilled to hear you say that, because I'm a big fan of Bustleton for this. I think is that run at Punchestown when he gave a bit of weight away to Jack Foley and El Barra is a serious effort. So, yeah, no, I completely agree on that. And the stamina as well, Danny, obviously, but the jumping side to this race is something, because I like the way you're thinking. It's a very good horse, but he's maybe had a few issues in the jumping department in the past for Gavin Cromwell. You can't underestimate how good a jumper they have to be around this chase course as well, can you?
They do, you know. I suppose the finish, it's a stiff climb to the finish, but there's no point having a horse that stays well if he can't hold his slot through the first mile and a half of the race. You know, that first circuit is very important. They need to jump well. You start, you know, the start of the play, it's quite an interesting start. It's like running off a cliff for most horses. They can't even see the first fence. It's just galloping into the horizon. You need a good, brave one to get down to that first fence quickly. Downhill fence, tight right-hand bend, and then plenty of fences coming at you quick, and most of them are on the turn. You got two very quick in the dip, and that can find out so many of those horses. So, you know, stamina is quite important, but if anything, I'd say looking at winter form or spring form, you're probably looking for a horse that's performed over a slightly shorter trip and, you know, get a bit of nice ground come Galway, and you'll see out the extra bit of distance. But that early jumping, as you say, is very important in this race.
Very important. Obviously fantastic. And then obviously moving on to the Galway Hurdle, and obviously, Danny, you and Hidden Cyclone came very, very close, and you were beaten by obviously Ruby Walsh, which was a bit of a stinger on his own horse. An absolutely brilliant horse, Hidden Cyclone. You had a lovely relationship with him. This is another brilliant race. Stamina for me, Danny, is kind of something I tend to look out for in this race. And I know it's a 2-mile race, but I always find they have to stay well in a race like this as well.
Yeah, they do. And yeah, the Galway Hurdle, it can be a different race every year. it depends, you know, if you get a fancied one going hard up front. What was Donald McCain's horse? Overturn,
yeah.
Absolutely blazed around in front, you know. That's very difficult to do. And quite often in the Galway Hurdle, you know, they get into the dip the first time and the whole race seems to park up. And that's when luck and running becomes a big part of it. And, you know, it's before the race, you're looking to see where the early pace is going to be. And, you know, a bit of track form as well is always a help. I think of Willie's ones far out would definitely have a big chance. You know, his jumping probably needs to be as good as it is, but you know, he's won around there last year as a novice, and I think he could be going back with a big chance. Another one I wouldn't rule out for Willie if they go a very strong early pace is Tax for Max. He travelled into a few of the good handicaps in the spring and just flattened out a little bit. He got a confidence booster when he won his maiden hurdle around Punchestown, and you know, off a strongly run pace, I think he could be bang there.
Yeah, Danny. This race obviously has thrown up a few horses as well, like the likes of Saldier, and very classy horses lately are kind of coming to the fore in this. Saint Wa obviously needs to bounce back, Danny, but he has a similar enough profile to those two in Sharjah and kind of Saldier. And I know he's obviously been around a bit longer, but the older horses can kind of come to the fore in this because obviously they are carrying in some serious backlash, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. You know, and San Roy, he was, I suppose, just very disappointing is the only way to describe Tipperary. But, you know, you get back to his runs earlier in the year, like, you know, 4 behind Honeysuckle and Cheltenham and a few other good grade 1 runs through the winter as well. That's seriously high class form if he can find that vein again.
Perfect. And Danny, just yet, you don't really know yourself who you're riding next week. It's all kind of still to be firmed up, is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Hopefully Willie will have plenty in the race and I might sneak on one.
Of course you will. Speaking of sneaking on one, well, not quite. The flatter on Galway is a lot. Obviously, Danny has treated you very well. I believe you put it that you went the Aubrey McMahon route on Riven Light that season. It was a serious performance that day, Danny, from him. Brilliant horse, obviously let you down a small bit the Galway Hurdle afterwards. But on the flat, Danny, there, obviously you've got the hill turning in and everything else. But the horse that you kind of need for that as well is you need a bit of speed on the flat course around Galway, really, don't you?
You do. And, you know, people say if you're not drawn well in Galway, you might as well stay at home. But you know, Riven Light, he was drawn in the car park, and the other horse for my father, Rock and Roll Kid, won the mile in Galway, and he was also drawn in the car park. So you know, if you have a horse good enough, the advantage of being that little bit wider in those tricky flat races is you don't have much traffic, you know, and if you can ride tight, you can put a lot of the others in traffic, and it makes your chance of winning the race a lot better.
Of course it does. And obviously, Danny, going into next week, speaking of Galway, obviously that was the first time we kind of got to experience how good Princess Zoe is, and she's well going into next week.
Yeah, she seems in good old Nick. Yeah, my father is very happy with her, and you know he's really enjoyed the trip with her. And sure, you know she won in Ascot previous to the Royal Meeting and ran with credit at the Royal Meeting. So hopefully she'll bounce back for more.
Hopefully. Absolutely brilliant. And then just to finish up, Danny, I can't let you go away for the race, our listeners, because they'll be getting very angry with me with you. A few of the horses are obviously coming back from their summer holidays. Last season, Paddy Aspel called your ride on Manila Cocooner the ride of the season. He strikes me, Danny, as a horse next season that fences could unlock a bit more in him if he was to go down that avenue.
Yeah, you know, he's already grade 1 winner and grade 1 placed, and you know he has real scope. His jumping over hurdles was fantastic, and it worked out great at the Dublin Festival for me. Ran a solid race in Cheltenham and came back and confirmed form again in Punchestown. You know, he came from the John Nallen school, and I spoke to Corky Carroll about him, and you know he said in his point-to-point days he was always a very good jumper too. So there's every reason to believe he can be a top novice chaser and stays very well.
Absolutely fantastic. And then Danny, just to finish, obviously on a horse that has really kicked you forward over the last few seasons, or sorry, you've had to kick him forward maybe as well as Florin Porter. He's been an absolute legend and an absolute credit to everyone concerned, Danny. And there's no reason that he can't just keep going, really, is there?
No, he's a very peculiar horse, I suppose, is the best way of describing him. Every day I ride him, I learn something more about him. And, myself and Gavin, after each race, we have a little chat. And, I think he's a horse that's definitely has more to give. And Gavin's campaigning with him has been fantastic. He's followed that route to Cheltenham every year. He toyed with the idea of going to France with him this year for the French champion hurdle. But he said he was going to mind him after Aintree and go back and have a go for 3 in a row in Cheltenham, which would be unbelievable. It'll be very difficult to do. There's very few horses complete the treble, but I think he's the first one since Big Bucks to win back-to-back stairs hurdles. So, they run it this year and he'll definitely give it a rattle again.
And obviously on Racing TV, Danny, obviously Ruby had that cutout of you holding him that a brilliant way with the wide grip. Is that something, sorry, just out of pure interest, was that something that you had thought about beforehand, or was it just something that kind of unfolded in front of you?
No, that was a Florin Porter specially, just done a curveball at me, and you have to react. And thankfully I got to the line in front, and that was the main thing.
Fantastic, Danny. Danny, I really appreciate your time. Thanks very much. That is Danny, Tote ambassador, and obviously top class national jockey. Thanks for joining us on the race hour, Danny.
Thanks a million. Thanks, Dermot.
Perfect.
Welcome back to the Race Hour Galway Races Festival Special, of course, brought to you with our friends at the Tote. Do get involved with that bit.ly link, which you'll find on screen, of course, /Galway 22. You'll also find that on bookmakers.co.uk. Of course, with their Bet 5 Get 20 for the week of the Galway Races. Definitely get involved. I am rejoined, of course, by Dermot Mclaughlin, who just caught up with Danny Mullins. I hope you enjoyed that. He did give an interesting shout out for Tax for Max, which was one of Tom's pick for the hurdle, of course, so that'll be a little feather in the cap there, hopefully. And it was a very insightful interview. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll get straight back in though to the mix of a couple of key races from the Galway Festival. We're going to kick off again with Monday's Conor Amateur Riders Handicap, which is a race that it's almost as big as the other two big races that we talked about, certainly for different reasons, and it gives the amateur riders a massive day at the Galway Festival, of course. There's even been coined a special route around the track, the Aubrey McMahon route, Dermo, which I know myself and yourself, of course, worked with Aubrey in the past, and we've even had him on this podcast in the past, and he's a cracking young man, and he could be back in the mix again for the Connacht Handicap Hotel. For the Connacht Hotel Handicap this week coming up, of course, and he might ride a horse. I'm hoping perhaps that he might ride Fovros, who I was very keen on last year, and he should have won last year, Dermo.
I don't think Aubrey is a jockey anymore. I believe he's running a syndicate now. So I think I don't think he will be riding, which is obviously a loss considering the man was a man possessor.
It became his race. It almost became his race. Yeah,
possessor on Galway. His first go at it, and he won it, and Patrick Mullins, I believe, still hasn't won this race, has he? And it's one of his big wants in life. I'd say he's won enough that he'll be okay. But
he'll survive, but he'll still try.
Fovros would be very well suited to the likes of a Jody Townend, I think here. He's only 3 pounds higher than last year, and God, that was an agonizing that last furlong when just Coulter was coming. Fovros he's a very good horse. He's one of these horses that could well knock up a double at Galway next week. He's just too big a price considering how well he ran in this race last year. If he gets a bit of maybe a kinder route through, that might suit him a bit better if he can save a few yards. And just Willie Mullins won't be short on horses or top class amateur jockeys, so that won't be an issue at all. And Jody Townend is the one I'd love to have on. I think she'd be really well suited to him. And just off that rating, this is such a good race, by the way. It's absolutely brilliant. That Willie Mullins horse up top, the Swedish Ledger winner, like, how do you try and grab onto what
did they go with? 92, and it just I think I saw a tweet from
Icy.
Everyone will love Icy on Twitter, of course, but I think you saw a tweet where the handicapper decided not to give it 90 because everyone will know I guessed, so 92.
So yeah, like, there's just this field is full of horses. We just could be anything off oftest ratings in this discipline. But for us, in Galway generally, Dean, to give away my secrets, not that there is many, I tend to go through the handicaps from last year and see who ran well. And Favros fits that bill, and at 14-1 or so, Dean, I think he's just a massive price.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't worry too much about the handicap mark being scuppered. They had to go and do what they did at the Curragh prior to Galway last year to make sure they could run in the races they wanted to run in, and they got the right mark and just got touched off by Coulter in this. And then since then, of course, went big pot hunting, if you like that, behind Bars, of course, at Newmarket, but a long way behind, and then has now had a little warm up behind May's runner now. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of blood apparently in the race report after that run there, so hopefully the cobwebs are blown away under Billy Lee. And Favros will run well, and it's definitely on my list for the race. Tom, this is a special race at Galway, isn't it?
Well, it is. Just if you look at the bare bones of it, an amateur rider's handicap worth 110 grand. That in itself is spectacular. But I suppose if you want to keep it simple, you say, well, Patrick Mullins has been the man 3 of the last 4 years in the Galway Hurdle, and yet exactly as Dermot just said, he's never won this race. So what's he going to ride? Probably the mare Echoes in Rain, who's a Grade 1 winner over hurdles. The problem with her, I suppose, when you think that Patrick's dad, Willie, has won this race 3 times, but Patrick's never picked the right one, despite the fact that I was going back through it. He's had 14 attempts so far, and yet he's never managed to win it. Who's he going to pick? As I say, probably her, Echoes in Rain. The problem is with her, the market hasn't missed her. She's 3-1, 7-2, depending on where you shop around. And as well, she's got, I think, 11 stone 3. And generally speaking, apart from the year when Robbie Mack won it, you want basically 11 stone or less. So working through those, Far Out, who could go to the hurdle on Thursday, runs in this potentially off a mark of 83, so 10 stone 13. He's definitely got a chance. But I'll throw you one now who, if you look at his hurdling form and his flat rating and weight, this might be perfect. And actually, this ties into what we're going to talk about on Tuesday with the big race then. I really hope, if you're watching and listening, Gavin Cromwell, Gavin, please have a good week, particularly Monday and Tuesday. If you do, we're going to be rich. That's a fact.
That's a cliffhanger, that is.
On the grade for auction at Navan. He was placed in the Royal Bond, and yet he can come and run in this off 84 with 11 stone on his back. So that would be absolutely perfect. So hopefully Gavin Cromwell comes here with my mate Mozzie, who really will be my mate when he wins the big one on Monday. That'll do nicely.
My mate Mozzie was a horse, Tom, that they were talking about tilting at the Champion Hurdle, right?
Yep.
Based on, what looked like might turn up in a Supreme, ended up bumping into a horse that was a Champion Hurdle horse anyway in State Man, and it didn't quite come together. There is a huge race in that. If Gavin Cromwell pulls that off with my mate Mozzie, 6-year-old off 11 stone, I think, there'll be a few people weighing in behind you. Conor O'Hare, take it away with the amateur riders race.
Yeah, brilliant race. As you were saying about jockeys winning this for amateurs, it's kind of, there's a few races every year that everyone targets, and this is a massive race. It's bonkers to think that Patrick Mullins hasn't won it. He's kind of won everything else from Grade 1s to big races around, but hasn't got his hands on this one. We briefly touched on the Swedish horse. A lot of joy. There has been a few whispers over the last little while about this horse. So yeah, the 92. Who knows?
What are they saying, Conor? What are they saying?
There's a few little rumblings going on. There's a few little rumblings around the place the last couple of weeks, but you just don't know. Swedish form. I watched back her race, her Swedish St. Ledger race. She looked fairly straightforward. She galloped all the way to the line. I'd say she could be anything. She was sold for 200 grand as a yearling out of Goffs here. Did her thing in Sweden, and now she's back. So it's an unknown. She could win 10 lengths. Who knows? It's kind of a hard one to row in behind unless you know something very good. There's a
Patrick choosing this one would be interesting, though.
It would be, yeah. It would be very interesting. It's hard to see him get off the mare. He's ridden the mare Echoes in Rain. He's ridden her a few times, gets on well enough with her. I'd say he'll probably ride her, and sure, if he does, you got to back the other horse then, because he won't win. So we think. But no, it's very interesting to see what he does ride. And there's going to be, sure, Willie has how many entries in it. He's going to run. He always runs them all. Sure, as Tom was saying, such such a big prize fund for this race that why not throw as many at it as you can.
10 at the moment, Conor. Just 10.
Like if he'll run 7, 8, and sure he'll jock up. He'll get jockeys. He'll get the best jockeys around, and you'll have Jody Town and all of them jocked up on different ones. There's looking down, there's a couple of horses that may or may not get in that are a little bit interesting. The horse of the Shark, I know Tom mentioned the Shark earlier on, Hallowed Star, who won at the festival last year, won an opportunity handicap hurdle. I think Conor McNamara rode him last year, but this horse has had a couple of eye-catching runs in flat maidens, and hasn't had many flat runs, and comes here a mark of 82, is 11 on the ballot. Whether he gets in or not is yet to be seen, but whether he runs here or he runs in some other race during the week, I think he's definitely one to follow. And if he does get in down the bottom of this, I reckon has a big chance. And there's one other one, a horse of Joseph O'Brien's. Some people might remember Leopardstown a couple of weeks ago, Shoshone Warrior. There was a horse of Joseph sent off a short price favourite, and this lad went to the front and he wasn't caught. John Gleeson, son of Brian Gleeson, rode him that day. I don't know who'll ride him next week, but he's people kind of thought it was a bit of a fluke in Leopardstown last week. I don't think it was. I think he's a good horse in his own right, and if the ground didn't get too soft, I know there's a bit of rain around and it's just a bit of an unknown down in Galway. It can pour, it can be lovely. So if the ground turned up on the kind of the good kind of side of good, I think Shoshone Warrior is one that could go well as well. But yeah, it's a wide open race. It's a brilliant race. Love the race.
It's a belter, yeah. Shoshone Warrior and of course Hallowed Star there for the Shark. The two mentioned there from Conor. Dem, I led you on to the Foverus path. There must be something else lurking in that field that you like as well, is there?
There's an awful lot of them. My mate Mozzie, a big fan of that horse, huge fan of him, brilliant at in the Royal Bond, as Tom said. But just looking at the prices, I do love a horse around Galway who's been there and has raced really well there before. And Foverus ticks that box, Dean. So on the each way odds, Foverus is the one for me, to be honest.
And you're hoping for a Jodie Townend or a Finian Maguire, or
yeah, Jodie Townend's the one that I kind of would have my heart set on. I think she's very well suited to a horse like Foverus. I think he doesn't want to maybe not get there as soon as he did last year, and sure. Jodie is a very patient jockey. She's brilliant.
She's first class. All right, comes from good stock, of course. All right. Okay, that's the amateur riders handicap hurdle. On the Tuesday, we've got the Colin Quinn BMW mile, of course. Tom, I might come to you first. Basically, which Ado McGuinness horse is going to win?
I was going to say, should it actually be the Ado McGuinness BMW mile? He won it in 2019. He won it again in 2020. He won it again in 2021. So he's got this squad of at least 6 runners, because, of course, the fates will tell us as they come in and out whether or not actually that's increased with the likes of Sir Jack Thomas. But if you think he's got Casanova, who won at this track off 79 in September. He's got Spanish Tenor, definitely. He's got Current Option, who's twice won the Ahanora. I think if you like him, you want to be very careful, because he just doesn't quite seem to be able to deliver over the longer trip. He seems to be absolutely tailor-made for 7.5 furlongs. You always worry with Current Option, is the petrol light flickering on empty when he gets to a mile or just a smidgen further. So that's my concern with him. Star Harbour, Pierre Lapin, Saltonstall, who started that run back in 2019. It's a great story there, great narrative with Ado McGuinness. And of course, there could be more as well, as I mentioned, with Sir Jack Thomas. Again, with all these handicaps, I want something with not too much weight from a top stable, not too much mileage, potential to actually still grow, develop and improve. And I massively respect the point that both Diarmuid and Conor have made, that you want a bit of course form. I can't give you course form, but I can give you a young filly who's dramatically improving. Trainer called Garvin Donnelly did very well with her. Now she's with Gavin Cromwell, who's continued the good work. And that's Gorla for the Cromwell team, who, since they've had her, you look at this run, she's done a bit of everything everywhere, but she keeps developing and improving. And every time they raise the bar, she just goes on and does it again, like a sort of a high jumper who just breezes through and says, give me something that really tests me, because she's won in Limerick, she's won in Gorham Park, she's won in Roscommon, she has youth on her side, and I love that profile. And she's done it on a variety of tracks, and you think she can go both ways round on a range of ground. I think there's nothing to lose and everything to gain So Cromwell's Gorla is a filly who could be really going places, and I'm not sure they've got anywhere near the bottom of her. So each way, again, in a race where I think it's easy to get sucked in and say, oh, I have to back one of Ado McGuinness's. He might very well win it again. I hope he does for him. A lovely, lovely man and a really outstanding trainer who's getting the results his talent deserves. But I want to turn a profit, and I hope the filly can do it for me.
The big price pick as well from you, Tom, and for the uneducated and definitely not Irish people like me, I think I would have pronounced that like Darlia. But yeah, do it again.
Only a pale kind of unfamiliar Englishman such as yourself would have fallen into that trick. That trap, Dino. I no such problems here. I'm sure the lads will back me up.
I'd say they will.
I got a course.
Yeah, number 24 is another way you could put it at the moment on the current card.
Well, there's that as well. But listen, we'll see. A lot can change between now and
then. Hey, look, double figures. Gavin Cromwell's Gorla. I've really butchered it. It's around 16 to 1 at the moment. Number 24 for that Colin Quinn BMW Mile Handicap. Conor, I'll come to you. Are you going to be an Ado McGuinness fanboy here, or have you found something else?
Of the Ado McGuinness horses, there's one that I would be slightly interested in. It wouldn't be my main one in the race, but Pierre Lappin is a horse that he hasn't had for an awful long time. He's still probably getting to grips with the horse, and he's had three good runs for Ado. As we all know, he's a master at aiming them at these big handicaps, and I wouldn't be surprised if this has kind of been on the card since he has this horse. So I think he's been training this horse for a big one, and I have a feeling it could be this Colin Quinn Mile Handicap. The one though that I do like is a horse of Johnny Fiend, and if they are, I hope they're not singing the name of this horse in the pubs on any of the nights. It's called No More Porter, so we hope we won't be hearing that. But I think No More Porter, he's such a consistent handicapper, has been placed in 3 Premier handicaps up the Curragh over the last couple of months. It's only been kind of going up a pound or two here and there. It's still in off a mark of 85. 9 on the ballot, so should hopefully get in down the bottom. There's a potential that Johnny Feeney uses young apprentice Jamie Powell a lot. He'd claim in 7, I think, still. So if you were getting in down the bottom and claiming off him, I think he's going to run a big race. His best form has kind of been over a mile. Has run well over shorter as well, and if there was a little bit of a cut in the ground, it would be ideal for him. And I think he's just rock solid. I can't see him once he gets a decent draw. Like, the draw is a massive thing in this race. If you're stuck on the outside, you're a little bit stymied, but it has been done. But if you can get a good kind of low to middle draw, and I think he's rock solid, and I think he should be bang there for Johnny Fiend. No More Porter.
No More Porter, the consistent 4-year-old, needs 8 or 9 to come out to get a run there for John James Fiend. That is Conor's pick for the BMW Mile. Out of those Ado McGuinness ones, the one I thought was coming right into top nick was Casanova, but I mean, the market's going to tell us a little bit more. There seems to be a few pennies around for it. Dermo, why don't you have a go at the mile? You're on mute. You've got to have that at least once.
I was due it. Yeah. I was due that. Sorry. Salt and Stall Dean is one that I have. I put him up in 2020. I'm mad about this horse, but he was of 105 last year, on a huge race in 6, like massive race. He's back down to 96, the same mark he won this off in 2020. And Jake Cohen, who's a brilliant young jockey, was riding him last time. I think he's still claiming 7, or he could be claiming 5. But anyway, Gavin Ryan, the last time Salt and Stall won was off a mark of 96, with Gavin Ryan claiming £5. And he could well be running the next week with Jake Cohen, a very good young jockey, claiming 7 or 5, depending on what he does in the meantime, and back off a mark of 96 again. It looks like a bit of a plan, that one. And Sir Jack Thomas, as Tom has alluded to, he might have a bit of a sweat to get in, should be okay, I think. But he last time as well at £5. Keane McRedmond was up on him last time, and he's a pound lower than he was after winning the same race last year. So the connections definitely target this race. Those 2 horses look fairly laid out. And there's one thing as well for our listeners, is that whilst in Galway in general, the draw is unbelievably important, this race has followed the last 5 years a very weird trend. You've got in 2021, stall 17 won, in 2020 stall 12, in 2019 stall 14, in 2018 stall 18, and in 2017 was 10. And last year the front three were 17, 19, and 13. So whatever's going on, we've always believed that the lower the stall, the better. But I'm not sure whether jockeys are maybe overusing the lower stall, and they're kind of maybe putting their petrol gaze into red a bit too quickly. So the horses from the outside stalls are starting to kind of get up again, which is understandable for big races like this with big funds. You know, you would, I know I'd go for it early anyway, if I had a chance to win the money. But it is something to note. There was the draw as the be all and end all at Galway. This race weirdly doesn't quite follow that trend, so it is something to keep a note of.
If you get involved with our partners, the Tote, during the week, that is the race for the exactors, the forecast, the tricasts, and so on. So there is a handy stat there from Dermot Nolan to keep in mind. I do think that Jungle Cove race from Leopardstown is going to be a massive point to this. It has to be. So many of them came from that race. Masala is one that I thought perhaps not overlooked, slightly over double figures at the moment for the Conquering BMW Mile. Of course, Henry de Bromhead's horse was third last year to Sir Jack Thomas. He seems to have done exactly what I guess was the aim, which was to bring it here just a few pounds lighter. I think it's going to be 3 or 4 pounds lighter for the race next week at Galway, and that would be where I'd go, obviously respecting the Aidan McGuinness however many quintet or whatever he might end up with in the race. Some big shouts there anyway across those two big handicaps from day 1 and 2 at Galway for next week. It's time now to open up the notebooks, gents. I don't think you'll be getting too much from myself, but I might come to Dermot Nolan first. Dermot, why don't you fire open the notebook for Galway and let us know what you're looking forward to running elsewhere across the meeting. It's hard to know exactly where they might all line up.
Yeah, of course. There's one horse anyway who only has one entry so far, and that is for Emmett Mullins and the Me family, which is nearly enough to
Surprise.
get to the back. Which is nearly enough to get to back a horse at Galway. You don't need much more than the phrase "Me family" really to get overly excited. But teed up for Emmett Mullins. This is a horse who, when with Ken Condon, was rated 90 on the flat, Dean. Won off 87, ended up off 82. Was a very decent flat performer. Has been very quiet with Emmett Mullins, probably finding his feet there. And he'll run at Galway on the 540 on Monday, and he'll be in that race of a mark of 103. So he's effectively 13-14 pounds than what he was at his peak as a flat horse. That's not much there. You know, usually roughly it's 40 pounds you'd put between their flat and jumps rating. Now we know that doesn't always correlate, but that is kind of what we're looking at there. So teed up in the 540 on Monday is extremely interesting. In the 750 on Tuesday, High Altitude was third in the same race last year. One of the biggest eye catches of the whole week. And that horse is now 8 pounds lower coming into this year for same trainer, same everything else. I think he is definitely has a big shout there. And then in the 540 on Wednesday, Abraham is a horse that I've always liked for the Brazils. And his last winning mark is 115. He slipped right down to 111. He's ran well at Galway in the past. So Abraham in the 540 on Wednesday. And then just two more left in. I'm not sure where these horses are going. I have another one called Unanswered, but I'll let Conor O'Hare wax lyrical about him. But the Morning Soldier for Tom Mullins is a horse that I think will be winning off a mark of 80. He is a very, very good horse, and he hasn't won yet, but Tom Mullins has landed a few nice touches at the Galway races in the past. So Morning Soldier is one. And then the last one is Quizzical, who was second in the mile. Could well go back for the mile again, but there's other handicaps now that horse can go for. It's 4 pounds lower than last year, so could go in top weight somewhere else. Sheila Lavery, Dean, as we know, targets the Galway meeting, always seems to have a winner at least every single year. So Quizzical is another one there, Dean, as well.
All right, couple there that we're not quite sure where or when, but Quizzical, Morning Soldier, put them in the notebooks. Abraham could go Wednesday, High Altitude on Tuesday, and teed up looks like it's teed up for Monday. See what I did there? All right, Conor, over to you. I know your notebook will have been bouncing away for the last couple of months with Galway in mind. Dermot mentioned a horse called Unanswered. If I was going to throw a dark horse in the mix, I'd definitely be throwing that one into the mix for the Breslins. Where it will run, though, good luck with that. Entered Monday in the Connaught, of course, also in a hurdle. Could be in another different flat race on the Wednesday. Good luck finding out where, but where it appears, I'd imagine there'll be money.
Yeah, I think the Breslins target this meeting a lot, and yeah, he's a horse on the improve. He's won his last 4, and so yeah,
he's not
wherever
unfound, is he?
No, he's not unfound, but I think stepping up in trip again on the flat for 2 miles. I think he's in a 2 mile handicap on the flat on Wednesday. I think that might be where he ends up, but wherever he does end up, he's won even to 20 or multis and stuff on the day. I think he's improving, and even going back over hurdles. Today he won over hurdles. I don't know how Brian Cooper won on him. He looked like he was beaten with 4 or 5 furlongs to race and ended up winning 8 lengths. So yeah, he's definitely one on the improve. I mentioned Hallowed Star for the Shark a bit earlier on. Wherever that runs, that's in the me colours as well. He's rated 82 on the flat. He could even end up in a maiden on the. I think he's one for sure. There's an interesting one in JP's for Joseph, one at the Curragh recently, but one very cozy. A horse called Common Practice, probably running a 1.5 mile handicap. I think that's a very interesting one. Dylan Brown McMonagall, he won the Apprentice Derby on him at the Curragh a few weeks ago. So I think that's another interesting one. We haven't really mentioned Dermot Wells that much. He's the man who has targeted this meeting for a long time. Probably not. And he's not the man. He's not the powerhouse he used to be, but he'll still have plenty of darts to throw at the week ahead. Tiverton is an interesting one. I like the maidens. The 2-year-old maidens in Galway always throw up some good horses. And this lad finished second to Proud and Regal at the Curragh back on Derby weekend. Proud and Regal went out and won a group race yesterday evening at the Curragh. So I think Tiverton, if he turns up, he'll probably be short enough price, but hopefully there's maybe an Aidan O'Brien horse to take him on and make him a little bit of a price. He ran a blinder that first day. And another one of Dermot Wells, Ezine, is a horse that won a maiden in Naas. Had a run in a handicap off 85 for first run in a handicap. Didn't really get the rub of the green. Was slow out of the stalls. Got bumped around a bit early on and kind of got not an easy time, but kind of learned plenty, I'd say. And yeah, rocking back into a handicap off 85. It's 7 furlong or a mile handicap. Should be interesting. And there's one from the Mark Fahey stable, Rebel Rose, who won a maiden hurdle the other day. She won a maiden hurdle only a couple of days ago, and off a mark of I think around 109. I think there's a mare's handicap she might go for, and she should go well on that. So there's a few there for who knows where they'll all run, but hopefully a few winners amongst it.
Love that, Conor. I mean, imagine we'd have got through this whole Galway preview without mentioning Dermot Wells. That would have been some faux pas, Tom Lee, wouldn't it?
Well, I remember in the good old days, we used to have the Weldometer.
Exactly, yeah.
We literally used to have a tally of his winners Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the Weldometer would be up into double figures after about 6 races. And you'd think, how does he do this? Where's he been hiding them? So he's a great man. He's still, given the opposition, he is deadly. He's a wonderful trainer and a gent. So love to see Dermot Weld there and his team in Galway. And as well, just the one other point, I think we can pick out, and the boys are just giving some brilliant stuff. Hallowed Star particularly echoes those thoughts. But it's about, as well, the trainers, because we get sucked into the big brigades. But at this meeting, down the years, think back to 2013, Tony Martin. Think of the year that Shark Hanlon ran riot and just kept producing winners. Think of Sheila Lavery every year. Think of the absolute genius, the dynamite, the canny, the shrewd, the elusive Emmett Mullins, who loves to turn up at this meeting with good horses. And then all of a sudden, that's part of the magic of Galway, announcing onto the stage the young talents coming through the, whatever you call it now, the Connacht Hotel, the GPT, the amateur riders on the Monday. And you see some of the really good talents that have gone on and been blooded on this stage, all part of the fabric and the rich picture that is Galway over these 7 days. So not just the 4-legged heroes, but of course the trainers and the jockeys who actually get to strut their stuff on this stage as well.
Absolutely right. And you paint that picture. That's what Galway is. It paints pictures. It delivers storylines. It gives everyone a fantastic crack at winning on the biggest stage. And I can't wait for it to get started. It is time for naps before we wrap this up. So Derma, you can go first. Give us your nap of the meeting, please, at Galway 2022. And you're on mute again.
Sorry. High altitude, Dean, on the Tuesday of Galway for the Murphys.
Thank you very much. High altitude will carry Dermot Nolan's colours for his nap of the week. Tom Lee.
Oh, goodness me. I am going to go Hollywood, and I'm going to go for an each-way double in the two races where I feel on a much safer footing than the flat races. So I'm sticking in the sure-footed territory, which is the plate and the hurdle. The each-way double will be at nice each-way prices, the pair of them. Fanda Blues in the plate and Tax for Max in the hurdle.
Love that. Love that. A bit of Munir double, is it?
Double green, double. Yeah,
yeah, double green,
yeah.
double green. Love that. Double down. Okay, all good. Connor, over to you.
For the races, we know that what they're going to run in. I'll go Party Central in the Galway Hurdle and Common Practice wherever that turns up a little bit later on in the week for Joseph O'Brien.
Love that. Thank you very much, Connor. I'm going to go for the big one, as it's a tote special as well. I'm going to put up the forecast. You can do it as a reverse forecast. Fire Attack and Boostleton in the plate will do me. Our thanks, of course, go to Dermot Nolan, Tom Lee, Conor O'Hare, Cameron on production, the Tote, of course, for getting involved with the race hour and sponsoring this ahead of the Galway races. We do wish everybody the very best of luck, of course, over the wonderful 7 days at the Ballybrit. Do get involved, do enjoy, and do it all responsibly. Plenty will be going on.